Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, everyone.
Hello. So let's wait a few extra minutes so everyone could join the call.
Hello.
Hello.
Hey.
So I'm sharing the document link in the chat. Please add yourself to the attendees list, and then if you have any topic that you'd like to discuss, add it to the agenda items. Okie dokie, I think we can start. So first of all, this is the first iteration where we are trying to do this block of topics during this meeting. We will reserve first 20 minutes for the community, then 20 minutes to discuss documentation issues, and then 20 minutes to discuss more technical details. But I see that today we have also some guests, Hussein and Maria. Sorry if I butcher your names. So welcome. I know that you would like to present an integration that you wrote for Keptn V1, right? So maybe I will start sharing the screen. So I would suggest maybe let's start with this. So please introduce yourself and present what you've done so far.
Sure. Let me share my screen. I put together slides. I love a good slide deck. And just excuse my voice. It is currently 4 a.m. my time, so you're getting a very tired version of myself. So, all right. So today we're going to be presenting our BotCube and Keptn plugin. So just a brief overview with BotCube. It's a open source collaborative Kubernetes troubleshooting tool. So what that actually means is you're able to monitor and troubleshoot events all in your communication tool. So you don't only receive alerts, you're able to act on them as well, and have it in a space where you and your team can see everything that's going on. And the goal is to really improve developer experience and give developers and platform teams self-service access to their resources without needing to be a Kubernetes expert. And you can respond to your alerts and access your cluster from any platform. Because it's connected to all those communication platforms, you can do it on the go. So it can be in Starbucks and be running kubectl commands right from your phone. And then just more of an overview. We currently work with Slack, Teams, Microsoft, Slack, Teams, Discord, and Mattermost. And currently we have source plugins with Kubernetes events in Prometheus in production. And today we'll be showing off our source plugin with Keptn. So we hope to expand out our plugin system. And then we have our executor plugins right now with kubectl and Helm, and we are hoping to expand our plugin system on that end as well. You can also automate your event responses. So you can put in an automation. So one really popular automation we have is when you get a particular error from your source events, you're able to automatically run a kubectl get logs to describe that error and have that running automatically, so you're not running the same commands over and over again. And then with our UI app, you're also able to audit your events. So you're able to get a log of all the commands and who ran them in a timeline. And you can easily, with that web app, it's easier to do configuration changes as well. And then more about the plugin system, what we're here today to talk about. So with our plugin system that we launched a few release cycles ago, we have the goal of being able to automate all the tools across the CNCF landscape. Like there's like 400 million tools, it feels like. And the goal of BotCube is to have it all in one place so you can have them interacting with each other. I really like that it's in Slack. I feel like it's less scary than the terminal for me. So it's nice to have almost like a tool suite that we're trying to build out. And I hope our collaboration today will allow us to add Keptn to that tool suite. And then just some basics on what the plugin Hussein's going to show you today. Right now it's a source plugin, but we have the goal of expanding it to also being an executor plugin. So the goal is to receive notifications about Keptn events with BotCube and your communication platform. Today we'll be demoing with Slack, but we would also want to be able to trigger commands based on source events that we get, and then we want to be able to take action based on a particular Keptn event. So I'm going to hand it over to Hussein, the creator of this plugin. I'm just here to highlight his work. So yeah, take it away, Hussein.
Thanks, Maria. So, okay, I hope you see my screen. Yeah, okay. So, yeah, as Maria said, BotCube has a couple of plugins already, and we just wanted to integrate with Keptn. So I already have a Keptn installation here. I only have one BotCube project. So let me just show the metadata of this plugin first. So as you can see, even in our Helm chart, by the way, this plugin is already in release train, so it will be released to production after 2 weeks or so. So once we release it, you will see, this is our cloud version. You can see the Keptn plugin in our production plugin list. It will be available. But we started very, very simple because we just wanted to get used to it and then see the, I don't know, a couple of more alternative scenarios. Here in Keptn, we have only 3 parameters. So you can provide project, you can provide, if you are not inside the Kubernetes cluster that Keptn lives, you can provide your API gateway URL here. Also, you need to provide your token, of course. With a simple installation here, I will zoom it a bit so you can see it. When you focus on this part, of course, there are lots of parameters like, for example, socket select configuration. So once you use BotCube, you will be able to send or receive this notification, not only in Slack, as Maria said, in different platforms. Here, I am saying that just enable Keptn, and the token is this one, the project is BotCube, and then I am binding this Keptn plugin to a channel. I already installed this one. You can see my installation here. All the Keptn components are here. So what I will do is I already have this Keptn CLI integrated in my terminal. I will trigger a sequence for this project. And this service hello, it contains a task. I'm using job executor service. This triggers a Docker image that prints a hello world. let's just trigger this one. Once you trigger it, you will see here. So this is my channel, and all the Keptn events just received here in my channel. So what I see, basically, I can see that, okay, there is something coming from Keptn, and it is triggered initially, the task finished, and I can see also if there is a description. That means if Keptn gives me an extra metadata like the description, the logs, etc., I can see that, okay, this job executor service is finished and the output is hello world. That's it. So I can take any kind of event from Keptn v1. Of course, I am using MongoDB Data Store API, and we are basically consuming this endpoint. Whenever we see a message, we are shipping it to the platform that user configured. Yeah, that is our integration. So our goal is to just introduce the Keptn executor plugin also, maybe by using Slack. As you can see in Slack, here, for example, when I say list executors, I don't have any kind of, yeah, I have executors, of course. For example, I can run kubectl command here, kubectl get pods -n Keptn, for example. So you can see I have all the pod list here. I can see they're here. If I have Keptn executor plugin, that means I can execute Keptn commands within Slack or within Teams or in Discord. Which platform do you need? Yeah, that's it on my end.
So thank you very much for the presentation. Very cool. And I think we are here today also to discuss how can this be integrated into Lifecycle Toolkit. So question to the whole round, how would you see or would you envision an integration?
Maybe for the upcoming evaluations, to trigger evaluations directly from it would be great.
Yes, I was also thinking about that. Basically, just to bring you up to speed, Maria Hussein, we plan to introduce a new feature in the Lifecycle Toolkit to have quality gates like V1, where you can test the quality of your deployed services. And this could be, yes, a nice executor part where you just list, please give me the quality of my service, or trigger a load test and then evaluate the quality of the service.
I might have a question. Is it possible with BotCube to have like a wizard-like commands in Slack? Like I say, okay, BotCube, create me a new Keptn metric, and then it will ask you, okay, what kind of provider do you want to use? Then I say, okay, I want to use Prometheus as a provider, and then it says, okay, what kind of query do you want to have? And then that it's creating me such CRDs for KLT automatically. That would be.
Yeah, we are already using the interactive block messages in Slack. So it is available in kubectl. So when you say kubectl, you can see there are a couple of options. Which namespace? When you select namespace, it says which resource, this kind of things. We already have this API. But my question was about the NIV tool. So I just take a look at that one. But what about the existing APIs? I mean, we are consuming the API endpoint for events. So in NIV toolkit, if we switch to that one, will we still be able to consume these events, or this lifecycle toolkit will send or push notification to us? What will be the status now?
We plan to have cloud events that we emit, because right now, everything, when we monitor your deployment with KLT, we emit Kubernetes events. But we plan to also support cloud events and maybe CD events more specifically. And so basically, we will push events to you if you configure your endpoint to us.
Okay. Because our end users mostly just allergic to exposing this kind of endpoints. For example, we saw this with MS Teams and the legacy Slack. So they need a webhook endpoint to push notification to us, but the end user says that we don't want to expose this kind of endpoints to public. So if there will be a chance to consume this still from an endpoint, it would be best for us. And in the issues, I already saw that the existing API is deprecated. Maybe it will be maintained for one or more releases, and then you will drop it, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay. Okay.
About this pushing part, maybe when we will start working on that specific part to expose cloud events, maybe I can reach out to you via Slack so we can discuss a bit to make it easier for you to digest the events.
Because most of the time they deploy BotCube in a maybe central Kubernetes cluster, and then you can think that the BotCube deployment is in a different Kubernetes cluster than Keptn instance. You can think something like this. So they need to expose this one to publicly, or they need to do some kind of VPC peering to send this notification through a tunnel or something like that. Yeah, I can happily talk to you while you're maintaining or I don't know, releasing, implementing. Happily can contribute on that part.
Let me take notes. Oh, now the hardest part. How can I write an umlaut with my keyboard? So hopefully I won't butcher your name too much. Perfect. Something else?
I just had an idea that came to my mind. Couldn't the events already be consumed over OpenTelemetry anyways from KRT? Somehow over a provider?
Repeat, please, Moritz, sorry.
We're already emitting events, right? Are they
Kubernetes
also
events.
landing in OTA?
No, at the moment we didn't attach any of these events to a span. Only when specific things happen, such as the evaluation finished and the result is that.
Because that could be another way to consume what is happening in KLT, probably, right? Over OTA.
You already mentioned that you can expose this one as a Kubernetes events, right?
Yes.
I mean, pushing.
Yeah, right now it's
maybe.
Right now we're emitting Kubernetes events. But yeah. We already have basically the setup to push metrics and other stuff over OpenTelemetry to any metrics provider, basically. So maybe that's also a way to kind of enhance that functionality a bit.
I don't know if this works with you. Can you digest OpenTelemetry data? Would it make sense for BotCube to receive this type of data?
So any endpoint or any, how can I say that, source that we can consume, that's totally fine by us.
Okay.
It can be also this OpenTelemetry. Yeah.
Yeah, it would be interesting to run a tracer test with OpenTelemetry data to verify that your deployment, basically through a span that describes what happened in your deployment, you did everything.
Yeah, kind of like that.
Okay, and I guess you're both in the Keptn Slack channel and in the CNCF Slack channel. So whenever we think about maybe a nice integration, just reach out to them to pitch it.
Thank you so much for having us and listening to our presentation. I guess a follow-up question. So we do have a PR about getting onto the Keptn integration page. So do we want to clean up and switch to the KLT before we get pushed on, we can officially be on the integrations page, or?
I think we can go ahead and merge the existing PR. Actually, could you please send in the chat so I can edit here? Yeah, I would suggest we can already go ahead since you already have something built. And then when we finish with the KLT integration, we can simply change that. Thank you very much. And very nice too. Thanks again for presenting that.
Yes.
Then I would like to say a few words about some status updates. So this is the milestone for the next release of the Lifecycle Toolkit. And you can see there are many documentation tickets because we like to improve our documentation. And we start working also on the quality gates, how we can have the same quality gates that we had in V1 for KLT. And I will present later the result of this research. And some good first issues from the community. However, there is a bit of a problem with the first part, which is supporting the readiness gates of Kubernetes so we can get rid of a custom scheduler. We have a bit of a problem here. So I will remove these tickets from the milestone and push down back to 0.10. The problem is the controller runtime. So readiness gates have been introduced with 127 in beta. We plan to make use of them, but unfortunately, there is an issue with the fake client, which makes it impossible to test and breaks all our existing tests. Therefore, we need to wait until they fix this problem and they release a new version. And this takes between 1 and 3 months, looking at their past release schedule. So I will move all of this ticket to the following up milestone. And then we are 20 minutes over with the community time block. I think we can go over then the documentation part. Meg, do you have any
Is anybody
topic?
here to discuss documentation?
I see Yash here as well and Adam.
Was Yash here? Aha, hi Yash. Yash is working on improving the architecture documentation. And that is, would you like to give us a status of how that's going, Yash?
Sure. So I recently started working on the KTL scheduler and the lifecycle toolkit operator. So till now, I had drafted the PR for documentation 1 and got some suggestion over it. So we'll work upon the suggestion which have been recommended on the Keptn scheduler PR. Basically, I would like to link it over here.
Perfect. Add it to the chat so I can add it to the document.
Sure.
So everyone can then spend some free cycles to do a small review. Ah, perfect. Thank you. Anything else?
No, there is just the Keptn scheduler part which I was working on. Would like to get your reviews. That's all.
Perfect. Thank you.
I think we actually already gave reviews on that yesterday. Yeah, that's the yeah. I think we gave some reviews on that PR yesterday. If you want to check them out.
Yep. Oopsie. Spoiler. Oh. Okie. Any other topics, Meg, that you like to present?
Not really. I'm mostly working on migration. I got sidetracked into found another sort of big problem in the background stuff. So I thought we'd have more people here to discuss some of the architecture stuff. But since we've got a lot, I think we've got a lot. Can I cede my time and let you get started on refinement?
Okie dokie. We won't do a proper refinement today, but more like a presentation of how we envision the quality gates to be supported in KLT. So this is a very huge file created by Florian, which unfortunately is not here today. And I will try to guide you through it. So in Keptn v1, we had this relationship where a single project could have multiple stages, and every stage could have one or multiple services. And when you want to define an SLO, so do a quality check for your service, you would write something like this. Here you had some filters, which was custom metadata that you can specify. And then you have a field to say the type of comparison that you would like to use and the objective itself that you would like to evaluate for a specific service. And here you refer to a specific SLI, service level indicator. You give some custom name, and then you define, okay, based on the value of this SLI, I consider that to be okay, to pass it, if it's either less than 600 or less than plus 10% compared to the last time I evaluated this. And we have also some warning criteria to say, okay, it's not pass, but it's also not failing. It's more in a critical state, in a warning state. So we can define this if it's between 600 and 800, basically. And then we can compute a score. If you have multiple criteria evaluated here, each one would get a score. And you can say, okay, I want at least 90% of my SLIs to be successful to consider this to be an SLO with passes the value. Otherwise, it's a warning if it's in between 75 and 90s. And the SLI file, you can see it here, is nothing else than a template for writing your queries. And here you have some special placeholders. The project, stage, and service are passed through here from Keptn, but then you can also use these filters data that you provided before. And then Keptn will run this for the stage and the service that you specified and automatically fill all of this variable for you and query the data from your provider. For KLT, we don't have anymore this relationship because now we don't want to support this custom thing because we saw that the industry have a different way of deploying things, and it's better that we just operate whenever some manifests are applied to a cluster. So for this, we plan to rewrite the SLI files into name might change analysis value template. Basically, it's transforming the SLI file and having the query there. And this should be one CRD per SLI that you want to use. This way, you can reuse it through multiple SLI evaluation. For instance, the standard for golden metrics to evaluate a service, you just need to define them here, and then you can reference from multiple services, from multiple SLOs, and you just replace the specific parameters through them. The most harder part is to map the SLO into the lifecycle toolkit. And for this, we come up with a name called analysis definition, which is similar to the SLO file, but now it's more descriptive because we saw that we encode here a special logic behind the scene. If you have multiple criteria, those are evaluated in an OR fashion, but inside the criteria, if I have multiple items, those are evaluated with an AND. And this was a bit confusing for past users. So we said, okay, we want to make things more explicit. So now the pass, you can have any of, all of, none of, some more descriptive name that defines how the children of this element should be evaluated. And then we can have the standard target rule. Instead of having an encoding in strings, we would like to have more explicit operator. This way, we can fail when you try to apply this definition in the cluster. We can have a validation webhook that makes it fail directly without the need of parsing a string at runtime and said, oh, sorry, when we try to evaluate your SLO file here, we don't support an exclamation mark if you made a typo. So we can detect these problems earlier. And then we have the same things for if it's a key objective and the total score. But then this is just a static configuration. How can I run an evaluation? I need to create a new CRD called analysis. Here I'm telling KLT, okay, now I deployed my service. I want to do a check of my SLO of a service. And for that, I pass through the time frame to check, okay, I want to check the quality of the service, but for which time window? So here I specify this. We can then add some extra metadata. We first call it selector, but selector is a bad name because it has a specific meaning in Kubernetes. And we agree that this is a bad name and should be called metadata, context, something like that, which is similar to the filter field that we have here in the old V1. So you define some extra metadata that you want to pass through during the evaluation, and then the analysis definition that you want to use, which is the CR that I explained before here. You apply this resource into your cluster, and then behind the scene, the Keptn operator will start to crunch some data and will present in the result here the final score of your evaluation, if it's good, bad, warning, etc. I won't go too much into the details about how behind the scene everything would work. But here, Flo also draw a bit of example. What are the CRDs that you need to write them statically, and what are the one to be created at runtime to perform the evaluation? So if you have two services, you would need to define two different analysis definition per each service, because the two different services will have two different SLO definition, because maybe service one is more a CPU critical service, so you want to check for CPU's value, and service two instead is more memory consumption type of service, so you want to check for some metric for the memory. And then you basically, from the definition of the service one, you would then refer to different analysis value template, what the industry calls also SLI. And all of this part here will be statically already available in the cluster. When you want to perform the evaluation, the only resource that you should create is the analysis CR that refers for which service I would like to evaluate. And then behind the scene, KLT will pick up this SLO definition, knows, okay, I need now to fetch these three metrics. It will contact the provider of each, of each of these metrics to fetch the data, and then write back the results. Is this clear enough? Most importantly, maybe Adam, I know that you asked this in the past. We are finally solving the issue where in the past in V1, we could have only a single provider per SLO evaluation. So I cannot fetch this metric from Dynatrace, this metric from Datadog, this metric from Prometheus. We could only fetch all of this from a single provider. And now instead we allow to have pick and choose different provider for different metrics.
And is that because it's gone through the Keptn metric server? So you're really pulling it from there?
Exactly.
Cool. Nice.
Behind the scene, all of this would be evaluated by the metric server. So there would be two different types of metric in the metric server. Keptn metric, the one that we have, will be used for scaling purposes. And then we have this analysis type of metrics where you can use to evaluate the quality of an application at runtime.
Yeah, so you can think of the two things. Keptn metrics is kind of continuously evaluated, and you always get an updated value. And the analysis is a one-off thing.
But are they the same metric behind the scenes? It's just for different purposes, or are they stored differently?
We're still evaluating if we can reuse, but most likely no, because if you define a CR called Keptn metric, then how can you differentiate between continuously polling this data from the provider from just one-off? So in terms of feature parity between what this metric can do versus analysis value would be the same, but the purpose is different. Keptn metric is continuously evaluated. The analysis value is, or SLI or single metric, is computed once at that specific time frame that you define here.
One other thing that's came to mind with GitOps, do you need I don't even know if you can do a second analysis at any time, but do you need another CR? Do you need to create basically another YAML file for a secondary? Yeah, Moritz is nodding.
Okay. Yes, there's two ways, I think, from what Flo said. Either if you use KRT for the whole life cycle, then the analysis would be created automatically as part of a post-deployment task, for example.
Yeah.
And then you can, for example, right after load testing, trigger the analysis automatically through the lifecycle operator, and it would be evaluated that way. Or the other way is if you, for example, just want to use the metrics operator, you could kubectl apply an analysis YAML and trigger it manually, kind of that way.
Exactly.
Same like basically triggering evaluation on Keptn v1 in the same manner.
So if there are no questions, all of this will live inside the metric server. So you can use the metric server for performing evaluation of your applications and scaling of your applications. And here for Usain and Maria, I think this is a good integration, because then with the bot, you can write, please evaluate my service. And you can maybe ask for a wizard, okay, for which time frame? Do you have any extra metadata that you would like to pass through? And then you get back the results with, okay, the quality of my front end is 90%. Hopefully we can release this in 0.10. We'll start to work earlier, of course. Pieces will be available in 0.9, but by 0.10, everything should be end-to-end available. At least that would be my goal.
So, for example, in the Prometheus community operator, when we install it, there are lots of useful, for example, alert manager rules that by default you can use them. But in Keptn, once you install it, the dashboard is empty. With this lifecycle toolkit, so will there be some kind of useful analysis files, SLO, SLR? There will be such a thing, or it will be really helpful for us to use them maybe by default?
Yes, we plan to provide some templates for the standard golden metrics like response time, throughput, error rates, and latency. So you can just have to pass through your service name, and then the query can fetch this data. For dashboarding, you mean Grafana dashboard to see this data? Or?
No, Keptn UI. Keptn UI.
We had a decision that for the lifecycle toolkit, we will not have any special UI. We have a problem that we don't have many front-end developers that contribute to the project, and maintaining the UI is hard. Therefore, we decide to expose everything as OpenTelemetry, so we can use Prometheus, Grafana, and Jaeger as a UI.
And I assume that in the operator, in this reconcile logic, etc., I will be able to access these useful informations, right? For example, if you trigger something, I can see the process through the operator. Will there be something like this, or?
We don't plan to expose any REST API for that, but you can do that through checking the status of the CRD.
Okay.
So via kubectl. Yes, Andre?
Yeah, also, I think for this usage, we will implement Kubernetes events, the link that will actually tell in what stage the whole evaluation or the lifecycle is in. So according to this, we already standardized the events enough for at least the basic management.
Any further questions for this topic? Then any let me add this SVG link. Then any topic from the community?
Actually, I'm just thinking a little bit more about BotCube, and it would be really nice to be able to say, get me the services that on a cluster that Keptn is, or the lifecycle toolkit is managing, for want of a better word. So where it's active, get me the namespaces where the lifecycle toolkit is active, things like that.
So will there be any kind of comments or sub-comments in Keptn CLI, or we are talking about implement a plugin so it can do kubectl, I don't know, list custom resources or this kind of thing? Through kubectl, a second one. Okay. Yeah, why not? Because we already add this kind of logic to executors. Why not?
If we introduce a CLI, it will be only for converters, if I understood it correctly.
No CLI.
No CLI indeed.
No CLI.
Okay. Then no CLI. Sorry.
The only thing that we might think to add instead is a kubectl plugin. Okay, so if there are no further questions, we're always reachable over Slack, especially for Yash, Usain, and Maria. If you have any further question or you want some PRs to be reviewed, just ping us on Slack. Otherwise, have a great rest of your day, everyone, and good night, Maria.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you for presenting. Bye-bye, folks.
See you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.